It sounds weird to say, but this morning the Bay is closed. So now the question is, what happens to all that empty retail space?
You come into these stores to experience choice. And so I'm sad about that, but I also am excited about what the future of this particular physical place will be.
So with 96 Hudson's Bay leases up for grabs, experts say an evolving retail landscape is going to make it difficult for landlords to quickly find a replacement. For more on what could happen to those former Bay stores, we're joined this morning by retail expert Bruce Linder. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the program.
As a reminder to everybody, the last Canadian Target and the Sears stores, those closed back in 2015, 2018. Yet we know some of that retail space is still sitting empty. What will the challenges ahead be for spaces like Hudson's Bay and those gaps that they leave in large retail spaces?
Yeah, it's going to be a massive challenge. I mean, every time a big box store closes, it leaves behind sort of that legacy footprint. And to your point, not all of it is filled. So you've already got malls out there where they're struggling to fill the old Targets and Sears. But the good news with the Hudson's Bay story is it sounds like about 28 of the leases or 28 of the spots are going to be used by a billionaire from the West Coast named Ruby Liu, who's going to open up some form of department store. And there's going to be more details on that. The other locations, I believe Canadian Tire and a number of other folks have bid on some of them. So you might see existing retailers sort of pop up in some of the space. But for the leases that aren't really spoken for, it's going to be all over the map, depending on the location of the facility. Some could turn into car dealerships. Some could turn into condominiums, office space, pickleball courts, gyms, all over the map.
Is that maybe what what comes to mind when we talk about, Ruby Liu's plan for those 28 Hudson's Bay leases? She talked about making it a new modern department store. Is that some of the idea?
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, we don't have all the details yet. Retail Insider interviewed her a few weeks ago, and she talked about creating, almost feels like a mall within a mall, where it's a combination, a fusion of cultural diversity, age diversity, so you're going to have all kinds of age groups there, food, products, and entertainment. So it sounds pretty interesting. I mean, if you look at some of the malls, she owns 3 malls on the West Coast, and they're pretty active in terms of always having events and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see sort of what she does. Does she create a prototype first, before she rolls out another 27, or how that's going to work? Everyone's pretty excited about that.
In a lot of communities, mine included, the Hudson's Bay took up sort of that chunk at the end of the mall, right? That's going to sit empty. But for several cities, and Vancouver and Toronto in particular, you've got these legacy buildings that are historic. The architecture is beautiful. How would that dictate? And they're multi-level, right? They're at least 3 floors. So how would that dictate what could go in that space?
Yeah, I mean, those are absolutely gorgeous buildings. Yeah, it's really going to be up to what happens with the landlords. We don't know what locations Ruby Liu is going to take, but for the other locations, you could put office buildings in there. You could make some really interesting condominiums in some of those old legacy buildings. I mean, that would be sort of a selling feature for buyers. So, we're going to have to wait and see what happens here.
Bruce, it's day 1 of the Bay being officially closed. What do you think about when you reflect on that?
I feel really sad. I mean, I was out yesterday trying to get into a couple of bays, and I was really sad. And you're right. I mean, think about the last time that we hadn't had a bay was 1670.
Wow.
The world's changed a lot since 1670. So it just feels really weird. It's eerie. It's surreal. I feel for the employees. I feel for the vendors. Yeah. And I feel like we've lost something.
I think everybody feels a bit of that this morning. Retail expert Bruce Linder, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Take care.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.